Hi, everyone, and welcome to Studio Jake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. You might see me wearing headphones and my lights are on for a change. That is because I am doing an interview with a fellow novelist. I love having my fellow authors on this channel. And today we have American Inferno author Sam Whitfield. He's also the host of the Whitfield Report on Rumble. I'm so excited to have him talk on because I have read several in his Task Force Lazarus book series, which I have reviewed on my Substack. So just search his name, Sam Whitfield, and they will come up. Also, check out his books. They'll all be available in the pinned comment below. So without further ado, we'll get into it, and I'm going to bring on Sam to talk about his new books. Sam,
Jacob,
welcome to Studio Jake.
Great to be here, Jake. Hope you're having a good day, evening, wherever you are. So,
yeah, you're in Florida, right?
I am, actually.
I'm in sunny Arizona right now.
Nice.
I wanted to bring you. Yeah, it's we're already experiencing summer symptoms, as we call them.
Same here.
So. Well, you at least have beaches. We don't have beaches here in Arizona, sadly, but we do have the desert, which is beautiful on its own. Just super, super hot, as one can imagine.
Oh yeah, I would imagine so.
And today I wanted to talk about, because like I said, I love having fellow novelists on. You have a new book out as part of your Task Force Lazarus book series, and that is. I'm trying to bring it up on the screen, but it is American Inferno.
Yep.
That is weird. Oh, there it is. Okay. American Inferno, and it is the 5th in your series, which is remarkable. I'm still trying to work on the 3rd of my 7 Royals series. So this looks, for one thing, I love this cover. Like this is a really incredible cover here. I love the artwork, all the imagery in it. But tell people about American Inferno and what led up to the disaster that they're seeing on the cover.
Yeah, so American Inferno, and I've written a bit about this on X and Substack, just to kind of give folks a general overview of the Shadows of Deception series. First of all, it centers around John Ryder, who is a retired Navy SEAL turned private security expert who gets pulled back into the covert world of espionage and whatnot. So that's kind of where the book series starts. And over the past few over the first 4 books, I've kind of dealt with the idea of this shadow government, or now I guess, as Trump likes to call it, it's now the deep state. But when I started writing the series, that term hadn't really been coined fully yet. So it's kind of the 4th estate. And so John Ryder, he's kind of been brought in, and this other Cold War hero, his boss, Thomas Roberts, has put together this team called Task Force Lazarus. And so they've been kind of, dealing with this secret society and shadow group that's been going on. So American Inferno is the 5th series in the book. And leading up to that, there's kind of been this shadow like news organization that's been publishing deceptive like news stories, and then basically kind of predicting terrorist plots and whatnot. So so I've been leading breadcrumbs leading up to American Inferno. And then American Inferno, I had this planned out for a couple of years where things were going to culminate, and then there was going to be a major disaster that would kind of be the climax of the series. And I didn't really know what the plot for that was going to be. When I first started drafting American Inferno, And then unfortunately, because of the chaos, in the fallout surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I was, as morbid as it may seem, I was kind of inspired to draw kind of from the reaction that people had around that. And so American Inferno centers around the assassination attempt of Daniel Harrington, who was kind of a fictionalized version of Charlie Kirk, and what kind of the fault is, and some of the conspiracy theories surrounding that, and really also how media and corporate media and social media and artificial intelligence kind of shape how we view narratives now. So that's just kind of like a crash course, kind of like a very brief summary as to what this book is about. So
And now, like you said, this is the fifth entry into the series. What kicked off Shadows? I mean, you alluded to it a little bit, but what got Shadows of Deception started? Because it's like I said, 1 through 5, and you have a prequel for the series. What made you think, hey, I want to do this? Because, like you said, the terminology of the deep state, it's kind of been around for a while, and whatnot, but and real world events are inspiring them. What kicked off Shadow of Deception, which I have read, by the way, everyone? Shadow of Deception is an excellent espionage thriller. Definitely check it out. If you need to start, I'm one of these people who has to start from book 1 and read all the way through. I can't start in the middle. So I highly recommend Shadow of Deception. But what kicked off that series?
So I guess as far as like what inspired me to write the whole series, so I've written a few short stories while I was in college. I'm a technical writing major, which basically is like social media and communications. But while I was in college too, I took various creative writing courses, and so I started to write a screenplay for this espionage thrill that I had. That because of the nature of the class, like it was a screenwriting class, so I never really got to polish it. The goal of the class was to basically show that you could write a screenplay and have it like properly formatted, but it didn't really have to be good. And so, I wrote the story and submitted it, and I believe I got like an A minus or a B. I mean, it wasn't like, to my specifications of like the type of story I wanted to tell, but it did the job. And then after I graduated college, I was just kind of like I was looking for jobs and, applying for work. But in the meantime, I've been following a couple of these, movie review YouTubers like The Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic and, all these other kind of commentators, all of whom I love. But the one thing that kind of, I guess, I wouldn't say bothered me about like any one of them in particular, but one of the things that was kind of bothering me was there seemed to be kind of almost this economy around calling XYZ project woke and kind of depicting how bad the story was, but then that was all they would do. They would kind of just critique it and not really write the story off or offer suggestions how to improve it. And such was the case for the last James Bond movie that kind of came out. And so someone was asking me how I would, kind of fix the James Bond, how I would correct the last James Bond movie. And so I gave some suggestions. And then the process of, kind of giving that critique just kind of in a casual conversation, I realized, hey, I've got, a couple of these short stories lying around. And so why don't I actually try and, fashion them into something? And so I kind of went back into my laptop and pulled all these rough drafts, kind of put them into ChatGPT, which was still new at the time, and built an outline. And I didn't really use ChatGPT to like draft the book itself, but I used it more as like an editor, and wrote a rough draft and polished it and repolished it and put the first one out. And wasn't really expecting it to sell at all. But then people such as yourself and others liked it, and so I just kind of started putting out these like shorter pulpy style spy thrillers. And next thing you know, I'm on to book 5 and a couple of spin-offs, and here we are. So
That's a really great story. It is amazing how, like, I wasn't necessarily inspired by YouTubers, but for the Seven Royals, one of the reasons I wrote it was because I walked into the fantasy section of a Barnes and Noble, and I was like, there is nothing here outside of the classics, right?
right.
Or Orson Scott Card's work. I was like, so you know what? I'm going to do it myself. I was like, Thanos, fine, I'll do it myself. And that's where Seven Royals came from. So it is amazing to me how a lot of people had, like you said, built this economy around complaining. Now, I have noticed though that is shifting a little bit. I'm really happy to see
Yeah.
that where people are now starting to talk about positive. Like I've seen Hail Mary get a lot of I haven't seen it yet, so I won't review it here. But I've heard a lot of positive things about Hail Mary. People still seem to like that movie, so that's good. And with this series, I'm curious, do you have like a set number of books you want to do to tell the story, or you're just gonna keep writing until you run out of ideas? I always wonder about that when it comes to authors. Like Seven Royals for me, it's a planned trilogy, but who knows, maybe I'll do more. But that's kind of where it sits right now. I'm curious your thoughts on that. Do you plan to go beyond 5 and into further, or are you quietly planning, the end of John Ryder as it would be?
So
You don't
I've
have to give away
kind
spoilers. I'm just curious.
no. So I actually did think about that, and I did a bit of research into the into Ian Fleming and his writing of James Bond, because John Ryder, for all intents and purposes, is kind of like my Americanized James Bond. Which, yeah, I know that that's not like super original. There have been other
He's
characters
definitely
have,
or James Bond. Yeah, I agree with
right.
you. I think he's very you have a lot more influence than Fleming did. But
Yeah,
yeah, I would agree. Yeah, that sounds accurate for sure.
and so
Having read it, I mean.
I remember reading that like Fleming had initially like 12 James Bond novels, plotted out. And so they weren't, and they're all kind of, they're on the slimmer side. And so I thought, well, I could do 3 kind of story arcs to do like 3 separate John Ryder trilogies. So kind of my goal is to do 12 books in total for the Shadows of Deception series. And then um after that, like, I don't know if I'm going to continue the Rider series. I'd like to, if it feels like there's still more to go there. But at this point, like, it's kind of like, well, I have the first like 12 kind of, in my head, but I'm not, committed to ending this series after 12 either. So it's kind of one of those
That makes
things of,
sense.
you know, I didn't, when I first started this, like, I didn't even know if the first book would even sell. And then, you know, and then when it did, I was kind of like, well, I'm gonna have to plot more, you know, out of this. So, uh,
It's
so
really,
for
yeah. I actually spoke with an author friend of mine. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
no. So all I was saying is, so like I do kind of have a roadmap, but as I'm sure you and other authors can attest to, I mean, plans change, and sometimes series end sooner than you would like, and sometimes they expand further than you would like. So,
Yeah, I spoke with an author friend recently, and he said that he originally wrote a book that came out last year. He originally wrote it to be a standalone book, but he ended up loving it so much. His publisher was like, or the publisher, I should say, ended up liking it a lot and was like, "Hey, you're going to do another one, right?" And so he was like, "Now it's a planned trilogy." So it is interesting how writing gives authors like you and me and my friend a lot of freedom in that. Like we can, unless we just absolutely do like a final sort of conclusion. One cool thing about writing is we can come up with ways to continue on the series if we decide to. So that's very that is really cool. And I actually have a little bit of a bone to pick with you about something, because on April 1st, and I should have known, and granted I should have known, you posted a image that basically said Shadows of Deception was getting adapted into a Prime Video TV series starring Scott Eastwood. Now, Scott Eastwood is one of my favorite actors of the newer generation, so I got very excited. I was like, "Oh my gosh, Sam!" And so you had me for about 2 solid minutes before I realized it was an April Fool's joke, and I was so disappointed. But that leads to my next question: is Scott Eastwood's, if you were to cast John Ryder, is Scott Eastwood who you would pick if you were given casting control over a film project?
Oh yes, 100%. And in fact, the way I describe Ryder in like the first two books, as far as like his appearance, is like he's tall. He kind of has like dark, brown hair. The way I describe him is kind of how like I picture Scott Eastwood in my head. And I've interviewed other authors on my podcast as well, and one of the things that we always talk about as well, wouldn't it be great if we could get our books turned into movies or shows? I remember I'm sure you know who Jack Carr is.
Oh yeah,
the author of The Terminalist. And I remember on Rogan, one of the things that he talked about was how he had always envisioned Chris Pratt playing his character, James Reese. And so then when it finally happened, he was like, well, this is awesome. So I kind of decided I didn't. April Fool's isn't really like one of my favorite holidays. But I was kind of like, okay, if I'm going to do anything this year, like I'd like to do something more than like, oh, I'm a Republican, but I'm going to vote Democrat that, this next election, or something, obvious like that. So I kind of got creative, and I'm like, what would be something that to me obviously seems like a very, to me it seems like a joke, but what's kind of a good goal? Oh, I know. What if Amazon were to turn Shadows of Deception into a series? So, and I'm surprised that some people actually thought it was real, because I've talked just with other authors, like how hard it is to get like series adapted and whatnot. Like I talked to one guy who he actually had a script, like a screenplay that was going to be adapted by HBO, and then like at the 11th hour, kind of pre-production, they shelved it because Martin Scorsese had come in with Boardwalk Empire, and they decided they wanted to do Boardwalk Empire instead of this other guy's series. So,
oh well, that's a testimony though to your writing, that everyone was like that you fooled so many people. They were like, that's a testament to how good it is, Shadows of Deceptions, that you can throw that up there. But before we go, I just wanted to ask, do you have any advice for people who might be thinking about getting into writing and whatnot, like, do you have any tips that you could share with them that would get them going?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. I mean, I feel like I'm still kind of learning this, myself. I've been doing it, 3.5 years. I'm still learning my way around. One thing that I will say though, that was advice that was given to me and that I've followed that has been very helpful to me is write every single day, even if it's just like if you can write for, a full hour, 30 minutes, even like an hour and a half to 2 hours, great. But even if it's only like, sketching like an outline for like 10 minutes or something, that's better than nothing. But like, it has to be like a daily thing, or at least, I don't want to say it has to be like a set schedule, like a time and a place. For some people that's a thing, for others it's not, but at least writing every day for people is something that, I have found for me works, and for other authors I've talked to, they've said the same thing. So just, consistency, I guess.
That makes sense. And the book is American Inferno. You can find it on Amazon. And also, Sam, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter/X at @SomeDuper_NGC. Same on Instagram. You can follow me on Substack, which I think is just, Sam Whitfield. You can type my name in there. And then I'm also the host of the Whitfield Report on both YouTube and Rumble and Spotify, which episode pre-recorded episodes there on Mondays, and then I do a live show on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, so you can tune in for that. And I'm sure there are other social media platforms that I'm forgetting, but yeah, Twitter and Instagram are my main ones. So appreciate you having me on, and of course, please pick up American Inferno and the other books. And also, just for people, it's available on Audible too. All my books are. So anyone who's interested in audiobooks as well. So.
And again, I just want to repeat, I will have all of his links in the pinned comment. So definitely check that out. I'll have his Substack, his Rumble channel, his socials, and of course, where you can find the book on Amazon and Audible. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. And Sam, thank you so much for coming on to talk about American Inferno.
Jake, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I would love to have you on my show soon to talk out your books. So.
Oh yeah, well, don't worry. We'll work out something very, very soon, I imagine. But to everyone else, like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.